I still hear your voice at night. Make me feel alright. Jump right back into my life. Cause we could dance the night away. Make me love you through the haze. Ain't no need to be afraid.
Hey, have you ever been in a quiet house late at night and suddenly heard your name whispered? You turn, check every room, and there's nobody there. Or your phone seems to ring, but when you pull it out, nothing. Creepy, right? That's exactly the kind of thing I read about today. Auditory hallucinations. Why do we hear sounds that aren't real?
Totally. It's fascinating and sort of unsettling. But the first surprising fact is this. Hearing a sound doesn't always mean there was a sound. Our ears are collectors. The brain is the artist. The experience of sound exists in the brain, not in the air.
I love that image, the brain as an artist. Most of us think hallucinations equals severe mental illness, but the truth is broader. Millions of healthy people have brief episodes. The classic examples are hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations, those snatches of sound just as you're nodding off or waking up. You might hear footsteps, someone calling your name, or faint music.
Right, and they can happen for many reasons. Extreme stress, sleep deprivation, grief, a high fever, certain drugs, or neurological conditions like temporal lobe epilepsy. Even hearing loss can lead to phantom sounds, similar to how people with vision loss sometimes see shapes that aren't there.
So, what's going on in the brain when this happens? Modern imaging has shown that during some auditory hallucinations, the same cortical areas that respond to real sounds light up, as if a real signal came from their ears, but no sound wave ever arrived. The brain is essentially generating the experience internally.
There are a couple of leading ideas for why. One is misattributed inner speech. We all hear our own inner voice when we think, that quiet narration. Sometimes the mechanism that tags those internal thoughts as our own slips up. The inner voice gets misattributed to an external source and sounds like someone else speaking.
Another powerful framework is predictive coding. The brain is constantly trying to predict what's coming next. It builds models of the world and compares incoming sensory data to those predictions. If inputs are weak, like when you're sleepy or you've had a bad night of rest, the brain leans more on its predictions. Sometimes it overconfidently predicts a sound and hears it, even without incoming audio.
There's also the idea of a corollary discharge problem. Normally, when we speak or prepare to speak, the brain sends a copy of that command to the auditory system, so it knows the sound is self-generated. If that signaling fails, internal speech can be perceived as external. That's been suggested in some cases of schizophrenia.
That explains the mechanics, but I think the stories people tell are important too. For some, the voices are neutral or just a one-off, a name called in the hallway, a song snippet. For others, especially when hallucinations are frequent or distressing, they can be intrusive and upsetting, and they often carry strong emotional weight tied to stress or trauma.
Which brings up a key point. Context matters. Brief, non-distressing hallucinations can be a normal response to sleep loss or grief. When they're persistent, negative, or impairing daily life, it's time to seek help. Medical causes should be checked. Medication side effects, infections, thyroid problems, or neurological issues can all play a role.
So if someone hears a voice or a sound, what should they do? First, don't panic. Reassurance helps. You're not necessarily losing your mind. Simple steps can reduce episodes, improve sleep, cut down caffeine and alcohol, manage stress, and get a medical checkup. For people whose hallucinations are part of a psychiatric condition, therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy for psychosis, CBTP, supportive counseling, and sometimes medications can make a big difference.
There are also practical coping strategies. Label the experience. Tell yourself, this is a hallucination. It's a brain event, not reality. Use grounding techniques. Name 5 things you can see, 4 you can touch, to pull attention back to the present. Listening to music, talking to someone, or changing your environment can interrupt a distressing episode.
And we should say something about stigma. People who hear voices often feel embarrassed or afraid to tell anyone, but sharing the experience with a trusted person or a clinician can lead to help and relief. Hearing voices is more common than you might think, and many professionals are experienced in helping people navigate it without judgment.
Before we wrap, here's a thought that stuck with me. Hallucinations reveal how predictive and constructive the brain is. Your brain is constantly inventing the next moment, filling in gaps, and sometimes it gets creative. That creative edge is useful. It helps you understand muffled speech, anticipate danger, and keep a conversation flowing. But it can also create false positives, like phantom footsteps or whispers.
Exactly. The line between perception and imagination is thinner than we assume. When that line blurs, the experience can feel uncanny, but learning the science behind it takes away some of the fear. If something like this happens to you or someone you love, take it seriously, get checked, and remember, brains are fallible predictors, not mystical conspirators.
Thanks for joining this episode of Brain Glitch. If tonight you hear your name called in the dark, maybe now you'll think, my brain is doing its best work, for better or worse. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast, and we'll be back with more engaging content soon.
Hey, have you heard about this? Why would the brain create a sound that was never there? The answer may surprise you.
I've heard bits, but tell me more. This sounds like one of those things that feels spooky until someone explains it.
Exactly. Picture this. Your brain doesn't simply listen to the world, it predicts it. Every second, it's making millions of tiny guesses about what you're about to see, hear, even feel. Most of the time, those guesses match reality. But sometimes the prediction arrives without the sound.
Like when you think you hear your phone ring, you grab it, but there's no call. I've done that and felt kind of embarrassed until I realized it was my own head.
Right. Scientists call this predictive processing. Your brain is constantly trying to fill in missing information, so perception is fast and efficient. It's the same reason you can read a sentence with a few letters missing and still understand it. The brain hates gaps, so it invents what it expects.
Most of the time, that's helpful. It keeps us moving without getting slowed down by every tiny uncertainty.
Absolutely. It makes the world faster, easier, more predictable. But occasionally, the prediction becomes the experience. And that's when you hear a voice, a whisper, or music that no one else can hear. The sound feels completely real, because to your brain, it is.
That raises a big question, though. If the brain can create a voice out of nothing, how does it decide whose voice you hear? Why do some people hear comforting voices and others hear terrifying ones?
Great question. Part of it comes down to context, memories, expectations, emotional state. Your brain draws from its library. If you're thinking about your partner, a voice might sound familiar. If you're scared or exhausted, the same mechanism can paint the sound with fear. There's also a theory about self-monitoring. When you talk to yourself in your head, your brain usually tags that inner speech as yours. If that tagging process fails, the voice can feel external.
So, does hearing a voice always mean someone is mentally ill?
Not at all. That's one of the biggest myths. Lots of people hear brief sounds. A name called across the room, a familiar voice, a ringtone, especially during stress, extreme tiredness, or the fuzzy moments between sleep and wake. Those experiences can be harmless.
But sometimes it's more than a brief glitch, right?
Yes. For some, auditory hallucinations can become frequent, distressing, and hard to ignore. When that happens, it can interfere with daily life and cause real suffering. That's why understanding the cause is so important. The sound may not come from outside the body, but the experience is completely real to the person hearing it.
What causes the glitches to become constant for some people?
A mix of factors. Biological vulnerability, traumatic experiences, sleep deprivation, stress, and certain health conditions can all increase the likelihood. Neurobiology points to differences in how brain networks predict and monitor internal signals. If prediction and reality keep mismatching, the brain's attempts to fill gaps can become persistent. But there's hope. Many treatments and supports can help people who find these experiences distressing.
I like that distinction. The brain invents, but the experience is real and treatable. It feels kinder to understand it that way.
Exactly. There's also an important social piece. Stigma makes people hide what they hear, which makes it harder to get help. Normalizing the fact that lots of people have fleeting auditory experiences and that help exists for frequent distressing ones matters.
So, what's the strangest lesson here?
Maybe this. Reality isn't simply what reaches your ears. It's what your brain decides to hear. Every second your mind is building the world around you. Usually it nails it, but every now and then it fills in a sound that was never there. In that moment, the line between imagination and perception becomes almost invisible.
That makes me think of the little everyday moments, thinking you heard your name at a party or a song you can't place. Those are the tiny echoes of this whole system at work.
Exactly. So the next time you think you heard someone call your name, but no one was there, remember this. Your ears didn't trick you. Your brain made its best guess. And perhaps that's the biggest brain glitch of all.
It's a comforting and a disquieting thought at the same time. The sounds around us are part world, part story.
And that's the heart of brain glitch. Every mystery begins with a story and ends inside your mind. If anything we discussed resonated or worried you, especially if experiences are frequent or frightening, please reach out to a clinician or a trusted person. You don't have to figure it out alone.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back with more explorations of the mind.
See you in the next glitch.
After credits teaser. Next time, imagine looking at your own reflection for several minutes. Slowly, your face begins to change. A stranger seems to stare back at you. Monsters, unknown faces, even people who aren't there. Why does staring into a mirror change what you see? We'll explore the strange face illusion.
I still hear your voice at night. Make me feel alright. Jump right back into my heart. 'Cause we could dance the night away. Make me love you through the haze. Ain't no need to be afraid.